Welcome to the Hellfire Creative Podcast. I'm Andy Baz.
And I'm Ben Mills, and on this episode we've got freelance nutritionist Rosie Long.
We're going to talk about social media, being creative and nutrition. So enjoy.
Friend, client, work colleague, all sorts of stuff we've done together, haven't we?
Excellent. Yeah. So it's with Rosie Long. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you guys?
Not too bad.
Yeah, really good.
Where are you based, Rosie?
I am based in Somerset. Lovely Somerset. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
So, because people might have read the description for this podcast, they might not have. Do you want to introduce yourself, Rosie?
Oh, yeah, put me on the spot. No, it's fine. So I am a registered associate nutritionist, and I work as a freelance nutrition consultant for different brands and companies, and I essentially work in kind of nutrition communications, so marketing, really. So not the one-to-one client work that you usually expect from a nutritionist. I don't tell people what to eat or do any of that kind of stuff. I do a lot of the writing for brands who are food companies and things like that.
But you do know what people should eat, right?
I try not to tell people what they should and shouldn't be doing. But yeah, I mean, the whole nutrition qualification is around making sure you know how to advise people to eat a healthy, balanced diet, and trying to help people understand as well kind of the fact from fiction kind of thing as well. There's a lot of nonsense around nutrition that people kind of get confused about. So I guess it's as well about making it as easy to understand as possible so that people can actually follow it and don't get kind of tripped up in these confusing things. If something sounds too complex, then it's probably too good to be true, because the bare bones of good nutrition is really quite simple.
So how did you get started in nutrition? Was it like a university thing or a school thing or like a childhood dream?
Not a childhood dream. No, it was like I was 17 and didn't have a clue what I wanted to do when I realised that I was probably not quite smart enough to become a dentist. Thank God I didn't go and become a dentist now, because I don't think I could manage it. But I went to my my tutor at the time at college, and I said to her, I'm not going to get the grades for chemistry. I'm not going to do it. I don't know what to do. She said, what do you like doing? I said, well, I quite like cooking. Like, panicked at this point. Like, I don't have any hobbies. And she's like, and what are you good at? And I was like, well, I'm pretty good at science, pretty good at biology. And she's like, well, I've got the perfect thing for you. Go and look up nutrition courses and dietitian courses and tell me what you think. And I went and had a look, and I was like, yeah, this sounds right up my street. This sounds exactly what I want to do. It's mixing food. I've always loved experimenting with food. I was always in the kitchen with my dad. So it's mixing that love of food with the stuff that I've always been good at, the stuff that I never really had to try that hard with at school. I was always good at that stuff. And I was like, well, this sounds perfect for me. And yeah, I went and I applied to be a dietitian originally, went to uni. I got rejected from all of the courses that were doing dietetics. And I'd also applied for a few nutrition courses as well, so to become a nutritionist. They're two slightly different things. And yeah, I got onto the nutrition course, and the whole time throughout that course, the 3 years while I was at uni, I was thinking, right, I didn't get onto the dietitian course originally, but I'll go and do a master's when I'm done, and I'll go and work in a hospital, and I'll be a dietitian, I'll see patients. And that didn't happen. I did about, I think it was 10 days of a placement in a hospital, and I realized this isn't for me. It was so it was very prescriptive, and calculating people who couldn't feed themselves. You'd calculate feeds that would go through kind of like a nasal tube or through a stomach tube. I was thinking, this is so far from what I'd thought about when it came to food and my original kind of idea of nutrition. And I thought, I'm also rubbish at maths, so it was just not for me. So went down the just nutritionist route, which actually has turned out to be the best thing.
So yeah, so you left college and university, then where did you go?
Well, I've always been one of those people that's a little bit panicky about what's coming next, and I like to like over prepare. So I was probably one of the first people from my uni course that started applying for jobs. So I think it was like November of my third year. So I'd literally only just started my final year, and the applications to like these big branded like graduate schemes, they open up super early. So I was applying to places like Kerry Foods, Unilever, Nestle, Danone, all of these massive food companies, and trying to get onto their graduate scheme. And there were all sorts of different ones at the time. I don't think they do them so much now. I think they've kind of changed the way they work, but they would have like nutrition graduate schemes, and then there'd be like food technology and things like that, things that I knew I could get a job in. And it was horrible because you'd have to do these like weird assessment centery things where you answer questions and you record your answer like on a video, but nobody was there asking you any questions. It was just popping up and you'd have to record yourself. And it was really awkward. But so anyway, I ended up getting a job at Nestle, and that was my first job. I got rejected actually from the initial job that I applied for, and then they rang me up a few weeks later saying, actually, we'd like to offer you this other job. It's temporary, it's a year, it's actually meant for students, but will you come on and work with us? And that's kind of where it all started, going and working with brands and realizing that that side of things was definitely where I wanted to go.
Oh. So your work with brands, obviously, so you started in-house as working for a brand. What was the like process there? What was the creative process for working at something like that for a PR person? Or were you doing PR there?
No, not at all. So I was employed within their medical team, and I was essentially just checking the marketing team's work, I guess, checking the materials, making sure they were scientifically accurate, and compiling some documents as well. It was very sciencey. It was all down the science route, but it was eventually all kind of coming back to the marketing side of things. And whilst I was there, I'd been kind of identified, I guess, as being quite good at communications, and they put me in a communications nutritionist role, which wasn't actually it didn't exist really. It was just a thing that they'd kind of identified. And I was kind of doing a bit more like social media stuff, and doing more and more of that communications. And I can't really remember exactly how it happened, but I thought to myself, there was a job coming up in the marketing team as a brand manager. And I thought to myself, I don't know why I don't just cut out the middleman here and just go and work in the marketing team, because I'm essentially doing that, but I'm trying to balance myself between being in the nutrition team and being in the marketing team. And it's actually really hard being that kind of middle person, not belonging anywhere. So then I went and worked in the marketing team for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And that's where I was kind of doing the creating marketing campaigns, coming up with ideas, doing brand strategy, stuff like that. I mean, obviously I was more junior then, but I was really immersed in it. And it was very much like, so comparing, I guess, that to my experiences a bit later on, the in-house stuff, I was like, Nestle was my world. That's all I could focus on. I was so immersed in everything to do with them. I was so immersed with the brand, the product. I knew absolutely everything there was to know about. I mean, it was baby nutrition, and I knew everything. I was so almost obsessed with it. It would be everything that I did. So that's very different, I guess, then compared to working in an agency where you're spread more thinly across different clients and different topics that you can't know it in that detail at all.
But you have to pretend to.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to pretend to, I guess. I think the joy of, so then when I went and worked at Porter Novelli in the PR agency, that's when I kind of realized that I didn't have to actually be that in depth with everything. I think it was a bit too much when I was at Nestle. I honestly, it was like I breathed that. I didn't need to. And because I had breathed that for so long, I felt like I didn't actually know much about, people would ask me general nutrition questions. And I'm like, I don't know. I know about babies. I don't know about what you should eat. Don't ask me. And I felt like I didn't know anything other than like, when to wean your baby, what toddlers should be eating, all that kind of stuff. And to be fair, it was quite useless because I don't have any kids. So then, moving into a more varied role, I was able to kind of, get more experience on nutrition for the general public, I guess. And yeah, it was definitely an experience.
Cool. Yeah. Do you want to just explain the differences between in-house, agency, and freelance?
Yeah. So I guess I don't know how much people already know, but in-house, I guess, from my experience, it's very much like you've got a lot of control over what you're doing. Yes, you've got a manager to report to, but I always found that, if I provided my manager with a decent reason for doing something, they just let me get on with things. And I was very much in control of everything that happened within that brand. My responsibilities of it. And then in the agency side of things, obviously you've got, your managers to contend with, but also you've got the client to always keep happy. There is this whole new layer of, working within a client service industry and making sure that, everything the client wants is super, super important. It's really important to make sure that they're happy with everything you're doing. And there were so many more kind of plates to spin, people to keep happy and people to keep informed. And then from the freelance side of things, it's very freeing, very different. I've actually only been fully freelance for 4 days, so I can't fully comment, but I have been working as a freelancer for the past year. And the difference I noticed in just even, ownership of my own time, being able to work when I'm most productive rather than when someone else deems me to be most productive. That is a real game changer in getting work done because, some days I have literally no productivity at all. And then another day I could have mountains. And when you're working for people, you can't do it that way. But when you're freelance, you can kind of flex your time according to when it's going to work best. So that's kind of my experiences. And I guess maybe I didn't answer your question properly. I'm not sure.
I think you did. Yeah. I was going to say, so going back to like the agency world, I think that because we've worked at the same agency before, and I think what I do miss from being like out of that world of like loads of people is you can pull people in from like, say like the healthcare department or the brand department or the whatever department is, and you go, we need some expertise with someone like that. You've got that kind of wealth of knowledge that you can pull in. I think that is kind of missing when you're not in that big agency that's got this broad like spectrum of people.
I suppose it's bouncing ideas off other individuals. So how do you cope with that, or in the short time that you've been doing it, have you been able to adapt to that environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important. That is the thing that I miss as well, just being able to kind of work with people across all sorts of different disciplines, because I have a very good network of nutritionists that I can kind of pick up the phone, send a voice note, send a panicked email to, and I can bounce ideas from that side of things. And that's been invaluable to me, because I think with nutrition as well, it's like, I swear every nutritionist or dietitian I know has a real overwhelming imposter syndrome situation where they just look at something they've written and think, well, is that even right? And you suddenly doubt yourself. And I don't know whether that's across other professions as well, but I missed that when I was in marketing and PR, because I didn't have really, I had not that much of a strong nutrition network to bounce ideas off. And I felt very much kind of sometimes on my own in that. So now I have a really strong nutrition network, and I still, obviously I have some of my contacts from my old my old job, so I can still connect with them and say, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good idea? Like, you know, I might send something to Ben and say, what do you think? Is this naff? Like, you know, and I can,
And I'll always say yes.
You will say, you know, yeah, that's really rubbish. But I can still bounce ideas across people. It's just, I guess, different. And I think it's really important to make friendships throughout the career and throughout your work, and have people that you can just kind of not even depend on necessarily, but just go to and say, what do you reckon? I need an opinion on this. But I'm very lucky that one of my main clients on the freelance side is a fantastic team of kind of multidisciplined. So I can also get that from there, and they're so supportive, lovely. So I think that again is super invaluable. Having people who are genuinely kind, supportive, it changes everything, makes everything kind of easy.
Yeah, when you're saying about imposter syndrome and stuff like that, I think that's kind of a thing that anyone in a career, I think any job, if you don't have imposter syndrome, I think you might be a sociopath. Like, yeah. It's definitely something that I think everyone kind of has in a way. Like, I think I'm faking this. I think I faked it.
I think that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if I know what I'm doing, but I kind of got away with it for however long.
I know. So one day they're gonna discover that I don't know a thing about what I'm talking about.
You're really good at blagging it. You really are.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's what I'm good at.
Fair enough.
No, I'm actually quite good.
You are
at my job.
Yes.
On the record, I'm good at my job.
Good response. What's your marketing plan as a freelancer?
Oh, well, I mean, I do have a loose plan. I've recently got a mentor. So she's really helping me to kind of formulate my thoughts and what I want. I think because I'm so new to actually, you know, running my own business and discovering exactly how I want to work and what work I want to go after. You know, I've got some key clients at the moment. So I'm kind of happy to slowly discover where I want to go in the future. I'm not under any kind of massive pressure necessarily to get it all right at once. I want to make sure I take it slow. Firstly, identify what work I want to do, what I'm actually good at and what I enjoy, and kind of slowly weed out the stuff that actually I really don't like doing. And then go after the types of brands and companies that I'd want to work with. And I feel I could help and I could kind of add value to their work. So that's kind of, I'm in the mapping process, I suppose, at the moment, just mapping out exactly where I want to go, what I want to do, what I can offer people, and kind of then figuring out, I guess, the sales element, actually going in and pitching and saying, this is what I can help you with. This is something I've identified that potentially you might need help with. And that's kind of my main approach from, I guess, sales. And then the marketing side of things, I need to get a website up. I've been trying to build one myself, and I'm just like, do you know what? I'm actually just going to have to hire someone.
Get on Squarespace. Get Squarespace. I
tried it then, and I'm rubbish. I'm terrible at it, and it looks awful.
Get a professional Squarespace person.
Yeah,
we don't do websites. Sorry.
But yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I think as well, it's really important for me to, you know, do some more media work. That's free marketing essentially, and social media as well is another point that I need to up my game on, I guess.
Speaking of social media, and leads on really well to our next question. like you've nailed it, how we got to this. But how important is, for a freelancer, I guess whatever field you're in, how important do you think that having a social media presence is for a freelancer, especially in like someone who's like your words are basically what people need. They need you to kind of help them, guide them. So how important is it for you to have a decent presence there?
I think it is. I think it's really important. As much as sometimes I don't have a great relationship with social media, in the sense of like, sometimes I just can't think of anything to put, anything of value. I'm just like, And I should definitely post more on social media. But it's super important because it shows people, what you're up to. It shows people how you can write. It gives them a chance to just like get a feel of who you are and what you can do and what you can offer. And I think when it comes to what I do as well, a lot of my posts are hopefully well written, and articulate something well, and they are a direct reflection on exactly what I offer. So I offer nutrition communication, and I offer it in a simple, easy to understand, digestible way for a number of different audiences. So it's super important for me to be able to showcase that on my social media and be able to kind of translate complex science into something that people understand through my social media content, show my creativity through my social media content. It's a direct reflection on me. So it's so important. I should definitely prioritize it more. And so should everybody else. And especially now, everybody's on social media, and a lot of people get work through social media. You hear about, other nutritionists who are kind of sort of halfway between an influencer and a nutrition professional. Well, I suppose they're nutrition professionals first, but then have that influencer badge as well. So you can get loads of work through it. So yeah, it's really important.
Well, me and you worked together, us, Hellfire, and you worked on the podcast for one of your clients, didn't we? Where you actually talked to social media influencers and nutrition influencers, didn't you? What was that all about?
Oh, well, I am a big supporter of kind of health professional influencers, so to speak. I always do the kind of like bunny ears there, because I'm like, they're not really influencers. They're just influential people with credentials and happen to have a big following because they're sharing information that people want to know. Like that's the crux of it. They're not posing there with, handbags with affiliate links left, right, and center. It's a very different type of thing, I think. And I think it's really important as well to have people who know what they're talking about on social media spreading health messages. So I'm always very much like, if you want to have a voice on social media, get out there, spread the word, put some credible stuff on there, put some evidence-based stuff on there so that we can drown out the kind of nonsense that's on social media. Because so many people read stuff about nutrition on social media and then suddenly believe it. They're following all these crazy diets that celebrities are pushing, doing some really dangerous things that celebrities are pushing. So we want to kind of quieten all that down and then push up all the good on social.
Do you think influencers need to take more responsibility for the products that they endorse?
100%. Well, actually, this is a really complex one. Part of me believes 100% wholeheartly they need to take responsibility for what they're doing. They're pushing some really dangerous stuff. You see celebrities that are pushing IV drips, they're pushing skinny jabs, all of this stuff that's really dangerous and really not something that any medical professional, nutrition professional would be advising. And there should absolutely be something that's going to kind of prevent them from doing that. I think really it should probably be in the form of regulations and things that actively gets in their way and legally stops them doing this, because at the end of the day, they're probably a consumer as well that has been influenced by the companies. They've been influenced by diet culture to believe that this is something that they need to promote and that they need to take for themselves as well a lot of the time. So they may have been kind of dragged down that misinformation without really knowing what they're promoting, not knowing how dangerous it is. So there's kind of like two edges there, and like, yes, they should take responsibility. Yes, they should make sure what they're promoting is something they're willing to take themselves and that they are actually taking themselves. You hear about that. I think it was a BBC program that kind of showed how influencers don't even try the stuff sometimes that they're promoting. They're just doing it for the money. Absolutely, they should be responsible for the stuff that they're putting out there. But they should also just, I don't know, they don't know better sometimes if they're not educated on it. I would always say, if you don't know what you're talking about, possibly don't promote it. But that would possibly be a bit harsh.
You've not been offered millions of pounds to say that you drink coffee through your ass.
No, and maybe that's where they're getting a bit like, well, I don't care. Don't care if I get a backlash.
I need nutrition, and this product's gonna. If I just say, I take this fitness tea or whatever it is that they're talk about now. Like, I think that it comes down, and I always think is that there's this moral compass that a lot of people have, and a lot of people that get to where they are don't have that. Yeah, they don't have one. You're right.
Yeah, no, I think there is an element of that, and especially when you get into this trap of doing everything for a lot of money. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in their position to have my moral compass challenged in that way. But yeah, I think the end of it really needs to come in laws and regulation, because they won't stop. They won't stop because of their moral compass. That's not going to stop anybody. Because as you say, some people just don't have one. So bring in a law, stop them getting paid £1 million to do something that's completely unethical.
Yeah, I think that's probably one thing for everyone. I mean, we had this. I remember this conversation would always come up when we were at Port in the Belly together. Is should we do work for companies that we don't think do good? And it was always like yeah, we all agree on this until like one of those clients actually was potentially a client, and then that would be out the window. And that was the money would always trump the morals in my opinion. But
yeah, I think there's always that kind of weighing up. Oh, we need the money. We need, it's a business and you need income, and then having this big moral code. And I always think as a freelancer, as long as you have your own ideas of what your moral code is, what you're willing to compromise on, what you're not willing to compromise on, then, and as long as in your gut you always feel happy with what you're doing, even if other people don't agree. Like, I had people when I was at the start of my career telling me, how could you possibly work for Nestle? And I was like, well, I know that what I'm doing is good, and I don't believe all of the negative stuff about that, and unless you're in it as well, you can't necessarily understand all of it. So I was always happy with the work I did at Nestle. I always did everything that completely rang true to me. So I was never, well, I was a little bit bothered when people would shout at me, but generally I wasn't bothered about what I was doing. So, and I've never had my moral kind of code compromised in any work that I've been offered. I felt very comfortable to say no when approached by like hair gummies to do anything, because that's not anything in line. Well, I mean, I don't even have that good hair, so I don't know how they could promote it through me. I think they just wanted me as a nutritionist or something doing so. I don't know. But it was a no from me.
So I'm going to ask you some nutrition questions now, just as a last little thing to see if you, because I think there's a few people like on the podcast later on that we're going to ask some questions about it as well. Hopefully people listen to this podcast because they want to learn about like creativity and how different people work in different industries, and maybe they'll get something from it. I'm going to ask you, do you think nutrition has an effect on creativity?
Yes. Bottom line, yes. But I'm going to give it a slightly more nuanced answer. Absolutely it does, because there is an evidence base, there is science, we are led by science, we're not led by creativity in nutrition. Every single message needs to come from what the scientific literature says. What do studies show? And there's an element of creativity that you can put over the top of that, but it always needs to come back to, but is this right though? Does this actually reflect what we're talking about and in the evidence? So I guess like in what I do, I've managed to, I would say I'm quite a creative person, always was into art at school. It's something I've always enjoyed. And what I do is I read the science and I try and articulate it in a way that's entertaining or interesting, kind of has that creative, use exciting words without making it sound too far from what it actually is. But, describing something in an exciting way, or maybe even depicting it in an exciting way, drawing a really nice infographic, or doing something that is creative, doing a fun campaign, maybe even to show a benefit of something. So you can still be creative, but I know, Ben, you've had me being the no person before when we've worked together. You know, you've come up with something super creative, and I've gone, yeah, so we're going to have to change that, or we're going to have to scrap that idea. You know, and I've sometimes been known as the person who, you know, dampens down creativity, which is a bit of a sad label to have. But I always like to think of it as, I say, no, you can't do that, but we could maybe do this. And I always try and put a solution, possibly not as always as creative as the first idea, but it's hopefully a halfway house. But yeah, it has to stop creativity, because otherwise we'd go wild and we'd end up with all of the nonsense that's on social media that I was just talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to have that balance, I guess.
Absolutely.
As a freelancer, where do you get your ideas from, and where do you find your inspiration?
I take a lot of I follow a lot of nutritionists, dietitians, and kind of wellnessy type people on social media. So I do take a lot of inspiration from what other people are doing. You know, maybe if someone's talking about something, I'm like, oh, that's a really good thing to talk about. Yeah, maybe we should talk about that. Or when it comes to things like recipe videos, seeing how other people are like filming their recipe videos and going, oh, that's a really interesting like way of doing it. Maybe we should try that out. So I do take a lot of inspiration from kind of like my peers, colleagues, and things like that. And then I don't know really. I think sometimes the great thing I think that I've found in freelancing is being able to have the time to actually think. And that's something I really struggled with when I was in like full-time work, that the wheel be going so fast that I'd always feel like, hold on, I haven't had any time to actually just think of ideas and like be creative and come up with fun stuff that we could do. But now I've got time on my side and I'm a lot less kind of stressed. So I actually feel like inspiration, and it just kind of comes a lot easier when you've just got that time to just, I'll just take the dog for a walk, and then, and just these ideas pop into your head. And I think that's the beauty of being on your own time schedule, is your mind's free.
I second that. I think you no longer have a 9 to 5, do you? You're freelance, you're working 24/7. Like you're constantly thinking about, there is like a little bit of dread, like every morning, like, am I going to be able to feed myself and my family? And then there's the rest of it's just like, I can do anything I want. Like that's the beauty of like running your own business and being in control.
Yeah, it's quite empowering and freeing, I think. Scary, obviously. I mean, thankfully, I've just got a dog to feed. Oh, and myself. But you know, I don't have any kids.
Perfectly.
How important is it to look after yourself if you want to strive in business?
You know, I think that is the most important thing. I've recently kind of maybe come to the realization that, you know, there's more to life than work. You know, before I was just, work was my life. I would just commit everything to that. And I'm now starting to go, do you know what? There's more things I want to do. I want to, you know, spend more time with my family, do more things for me, things I enjoy, actually maybe have a hobby for once. And that has just, as I said, kind of made me feel so much more, I have more productivity, I'm more inspired, I have more drive to do stuff, I have more drive to succeed just from looking after myself and finally realizing that my priorities are shifting. And I think maybe like, I feel like I've come to this like epiphany a little bit early in my career to suddenly realize that life's not all about work. And, you know, I'm in my 20s, late 20s, but I'm in my 20s. And I've kind of realized that there's more to life. And I think I'm really lucky to have figured that out now. But yeah, and that's helped me to feel better, look after myself. You know, I can now take time out, and thankfully the gyms are open again. I can take time out in the middle of the day, go and do a Britney Spears spin class, and then come back and I feel on top of the world. It's, you know, So looking after yourself is, and you know, I've got time to cook. I've got time to fuel my body in the good way. So yeah, so important, I think, for being successful, not burning out. There was a time earlier on in the year that I genuinely think I had burnout. I couldn't get out of bed for like 3 days. I thought I had COVID. Didn't. Was just stressed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, maybe that's what made me come to that realization that, you know, you can't keep going and keep going and keep going and expect to actually be any good, because I was getting rubbish at my job at that point and didn't have any energy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, especially with the exercise thing. I like this sometimes. I try to go to the gym before 8 o'clock every morning, get it done. But the amount of times I've been walking back from the gym and like ideas just gone bang, bang, bang. Like, oh wow, that's like clarity. And it's really weird because it sounds like really stupid to say out loud. But if you like your body, if you look after your body or exercise it or burn that excess energy off, you can clear your mind and like you're not like pent up aggression or whatever it is. It's a really good way of like just getting those thoughts on that level and just letting them out.
Yeah, 100%. I've noticed a change just from going back to the gym this week. Like I'm not a home workout person. It's never ever been something I can't do it. So being able to get back on a spin bike was just sounds really tragic to say, but just the best. It was so good.
Excellent. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up. Thanks so much for your time talking us through that. That was really, really interesting. So we're much appreciated. Okay.
Oh, well, thank you. I hope it was interesting.
Really
I don't know what I talked about, but
tell us where we can, you know, people can find your pages, etc.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. So it's Nutrition by Rosie on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter as well at Rosie_Long. And I haven't got a website yet. It's in progress.
If anyone wants to do Rosie's website, those you can get her at Nutrition by Rosie on Instagram or Rosie_Long on Twitter.
Thank you.
And also, this everyone listen to Kernels and Nutrition, the ABC podcast, because that basically it's kind of other people telling you what Rosie kind of said about the importance of like social media and also being responsible and stuff. So definitely check out Kernels and Nutrition, where you can find podcasts, all those places, right?
Yeah, all of the places you can find podcasts. And I just speak to a load of other nutrition professionals about the different work that we do. So it's really interesting, I think, anyway.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Rosie.
Thank you.
There you have it, another episode of Hellfire Creative Podcast with Rosie Long.
Hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure you're following us, subscribe to all our social media, etc. And we'll see you soon for the next episode.
Bye.